Welcome back. In this new video, we will discover a new portrait of a Pope Leo. And Pope France said that Leo will be amazing, so he will respond to Trump's reality show. So far, we have seen Leo XIV as a reserved, an humble, a deeply methodical leader, characterized by calm, steady, and introspective demeanor. Known for being a carefully listener, he is seen as a conciliator, a bridge building, centrist with a quiet authority and the focus on pastoral service of a charismatic display. So we will discover, a new portrait. How Pope Leo is depicted by a close friend, Cesar Piscoya, who worked closely with him at the time of Peru and wrote a portrait of the Pope. Roberto has a quiet strength and global vision, and he is not afraid. And that was particularly demonstrated in the confrontation with Donald Trump, but will come out even more clearly during his pontificate. So the first question in this interview is this one. How was your friendship with Robert Francis Prevost born and developed? Our relationship began in November 1995, a day marked by the anguish of my mother crying for my decision to leave the university and enter the seminary. In that tense atmosphere, he arrived aboard a grey van. A thin man with a foreign accent, but immediately warm. Roberto was not in a hurry. He sat down with my parents. He understood their pain, and looking me in the eye, he asked me, "Is everything ready?" That gesture was not a simple request, but an act of a drive that respected my youthful impassion. We lived together in Curia, guided by the Augustinian idea of a pedagogy, friendship, sharing everything from prayer to preparing pizzas on Fridays during free time. Although I then left the order in 2002, he never forgot me. He sent me emails for my birthdays, keeping alive a bond that intensified after the death of my wife in 2016, when he invited me to Chiclayo to share my pain and serve the church together from 2016 to 2022. What does this Pope bring to Rome from Peru? What are his priorities and idiosyncrasies? I believe that the Pope brings to Rome a global perspective, not necessarily Eurocentric. The Augustinians are present in 50 countries around the world, and he visited them all when he was prior general of the order. Another equally significant experience is that of having become a missionary in the cold, in the dust, in the mud, in the water, first in Chiclayo, then in Trujillo, and in Chiclayo. Through his experience, Roberto has experienced Catholicism is in its most vibrant and peripheral expression. Aware that faith is above all factor of survival and dignity for our Peruvian people, the experience of a faith support many realities of hunger, injustice, and despair. I believe that this absolute priority is unity in diversity, summarized in his episcopal motto, in illo uno unum, which means in the one we are one. Since I've known him, Roberto's great challenge as a good Augustinian has been communion. His greatest aversion is for clericalism, the excess and abuse of power that distances pastors from the people, and for immoral indoctrination that violates freedom of conscience he has always been respectful of the cultural ways of acting of our people. He protected the freedom of conscience of those of us who were going through a path of faith. I think it will bring these sensibilities also in our universal church. Is it true that he received death threats from Sendero Luminoso in Peru, but did he still want to stay? It's true that Prevost had to face threats in the 1990s at the height of Sendero Luminoso's terrorism. His provincial superior in the United States asked him to draw up an escape plan for his security. However, Robert and our Augustinian community decided not to leave Peru. He promoted the conviction that the church should accompany the people in their time of crucifixion and suffering. He remained firm in Trujillo, giving a prophetic testimony that a faithful shepherd does not flee from a danger. You could say that until Trump attacked the Pope and the latter responded calmly and determinedly, the general public did not understand him very much. How would you describe his character? You know him so closely and for so long. His response to external attacks, like those of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, I may add, reflects Roberto's character, sober, attentive, and I would say even endowed with a quiet strength. Roberto is a brilliant intellectual. He is not very talkative because he prefers to listen rather than talk. He is a man of extraordinary humility who prefers simple gesture to pomp or praise. His leadership is based on trust and discernment, not on imposition. What do I mean? President Trump has publicly called him weak. He said he is wrong, and the response of Leo XIV, of the pontiff, was unequivocal. He said he was not afraid, and he expressed it calmly but strongly. While Trump used the language of reality shows to delegitimize the moral authority of the church, Leo XIV responded by raising the conflict to the level of doctrinal orthodoxy, even going so far as to call the use of God's name to justify blasphemous, and faced with the threat of this new crusade in the Middle East, which borders on madness. Leo XIV returned to the gospel and said, "Blessed are the peacekeepers," distancing himself from any nationalist ideology that Trump tried to impose with his comments. Roberto's calmness is not weakness. The Pope defines himself as a person capable of a dialogue and respect, but with a deep faith that does not compromise. He also has a global perspective. His character has been shaped by the need to stand by the people in moments of pain, despair, and suffering, which explain why Robert or Leo XIV is not afraid of current threats. I think it's important to have this in mind to understand how Pope Leo XIV is behaving right now. I know it's a simplification, but is this Pope progressive or conservative? Yes, it's a simplification. Leo XIV is a man of a continuity, bold like Francis, but with a deep respect for the historical tradition of the Church. He's a conservative in doctrine, but progressive in his radical choice for the poor and inclusion of women and clergy. I could say that he's an Augustinian reformer, looking for a balance between the legacy received and the pastoral updating. And if I'm not mistaken, and I remember correctly, there is a phrase from Saint Augustine that can help us to understand Roberto's action now. In the necessary things, unity, when in doubt, freedom, but in everything, charity. I think this perfectly summarizes who Roberto is. In your opinion, what relationship will be established with the Roman Curia? I believe that Prevost is not a stranger to Rome. Having been prior general of the order of the Augustinians, he was also prefect of the dicastery of a bishop for over 2 years, and experience that I believe Francesco took advantage of to prepare him. So this means that he knows his peers, he knows the bishops and the cardinals, he knows that power structure, and I believe that it will be established a relationship of a mutual listening, but he will not hesitate to make firm decision. I think he is a leader who does not let himself to be dazzled by the stratospheric distance, we could say, of the Vatican, because he has his feet well planted. Pope Leo has already made several significant decisions, just to mention a few of them: abolishing the ceremony of enthronement, condemnation of the capital punishment. He has made several major United States appointments, and I want to remember just the last one. Most recently appointing Bishop Evelio Menijava Ayala, who was smuggled into the United States in a car. So we can say that he's a former refugee. He will lead the Catholic Church in West Virginia. In conclusion, I can say that we should be offering prayers for his wisdom, for his courage, and the pastoral care as a shepherd for the church, for his guidance by the Holy Spirit, thanking God for his leadership and supporting his focus on peace, dialogue, and unity. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.